Welcome back to Nifty 50 Photographers. Now, imagine you have booked a trip to somewhere you've always wanted to visit, like Iceland, for example, and you're right in front of their most famous cathedral, and you want to take a great shot of it. There's a problem. It doesn't fit in your frame. What can you do? Well, don't worry. Watch on, and I'll show you a very simple technique that's incredibly forgiving, even if you take some quite average shots of it, to create a beautiful picture called a Vertorama. Now, very recently I went on a motorbike trip, actually with some mates. We went to Belgium and had a lovely tour around and found ourselves in the beautiful city of Ghent. If you ever get a chance to go there, I highly recommend it. Some fabulous architecture. Now, we went out for a meal in the evening and we saw this beautiful cathedral, St. Barthol's Cathedral. And I wanted to do the same thing, but I was really struggling with my framing. I couldn't get the image I wanted and get it all in the frame, particularly when I had my camera in portrait mode, which would be the obvious way of taking this picture. So how did I get round it? Don't worry, there's a very simple technique. It's called a Vertorama. What you do is you take 3 landscape shots. Now, these are my 3 photos, and I literally did this completely handheld. I was very casual about how I took this. I could have worked a bit harder, frankly, to take better shots. Now, the important thing is you take them in landscape, because you're going to end up cropping your image quite a lot, so stuff in the left and right hand side of your frame is going to disappear. And you must make sure you get a big overlap between each shot. So you take a shot of the bottom, one of the middle, one of the top. You can take a lot more if you wish, and I would recommend you take at least 3, but probably 3 to 5 would be better. The more you take, the less chance there is of the building end up being distorted. What do you do with them after that? Well, I took them straight into Lightroom. I did some very basic developing just to sort out the exposure, so that when I blend them together, they'll all look like they were taken with the same exposure and it's the same shot. So in Lightroom, you can go to the photo menu and go photo merge and merge as a panorama. Now, because I'd taken these shots so badly, it didn't really work. So I used Photoshop because it's a bit more forgiving. The algorithm seemed to make a better job. But it's pretty much the same commands. So whatever you're using, either of these techniques will work in both Photoshop and Lightroom. The tools are incredibly similar. So you can follow this, whichever method you decide to go down. So you do exactly the same thing. And this time I'm choosing Photo, and I'm going to merge as a panorama in Photoshop. Now, it takes a few minutes to crunch this up. Now, the options you get, I would just choose Auto for your layout. You can, if you wish, tick the box Content, Fill, Transparent Areas, and that'll just take some of the surrounding content and fill it with something that it thinks is appropriate. To be honest, it doesn't always do a great job. If you've got a very simple background, then by all means press it. It'll help to fill it in. It'll help to give you a bigger image to work with. But otherwise, just leave it blank and end up cropping out the blank areas later on. So once it's done all that, I've ended up with an image looking like this. Now, you can see one of the major problems with this is it's heavily distorted. The building looks like it's leaning backwards. That's because I was very clumsy about how I took the photos. Taken them on a tripod, had my camera on a gimbal and rotated it about a central axis, I would have got round a lot of that. But we can easily correct that, and what we do is you open the camera raw filter and you look for the section on geometry. Now, the easiest way to work this, you can try clicking the A button, which is auto, and see if that'll sort it out. And because this is so badly distorted, I honestly don't believe it will. So I'm just going to skip straight to using this icon here, which is the guided button. And now what you do is you drag at least 2 lines. So position your cursor over what should be a vertical line or alternatively a horizontal line, and keep the mouse pressed, drag it down till you've created a line down something which you know should be vertical. Repeat the same thing on the other side. And then for good measure, I always do a horizontal one as well. So I found a horizontal surface here. I click and drag out my line in the same way. And now you can see that it's created something that looks pretty close to the final thing. Now, if you find that your image is going outside your frame altogether or outside the canvas, use the offset keys, and you probably need to use some Y offset, so that's vertical axis, to bring it down so it's in the center of the frame still. Once you've done that, now we've got pretty much a perfect image, which you can just crop out the transparent areas and end up with your nice looking Vertorama. So it looks like one-off frame shot, and it all fit in your frame to start with. So now you can take it back into Lightroom. You can apply some of your own artistic interpretation to make it a beautiful image. So I did a few things. It was around sunset when I took this, and I could see there's a bit of a sunset there. Actually, I changed the sky for one that I thought was a better sunset to end up with something like this. And then, because at the moment my style is to play around with it, blur a lot of the background and create something a bit more like a digital artwork, I did this to it, and this was my final image. And as you can see, I think it's turned out nicely. Come from something that was pretty crude in the first place. Just for the sake of completeness, let me show you how I created the Iceland image. So these are the three images of the cathedral in Iceland, and I blended them together and ended up with a photo like this. So if you want to make something much more realistic, a proper sort of photograph, you can do exactly the same as I've done here. I hope you found that useful. Next time you're struggling in front of a big building or big landmark, now you know exactly what to do. If you did find that useful, please like this and subscribe to the channel if you want to see some more tips like this. And in the meantime, go out and practice it. It's one of those things, like everything in life, the more you practice, the better you'll get. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.